If you own a cross-lease property in New Zealand, the rules just changed. On the 16th of April, 2026, the Court of Appeal overturned 35 years of settled law on what your neighbor can and cannot block you from doing to your own home. The decision affects more than 200,000 properties nationwide, around 100,000 of them in Auckland alone. For owners who have been unable to renovate, extend, or rebuild because a single neighbor said no, this ruling shifts the balance of power. Cross-leases were created in the late 1950s and early 1960s as a legal workaround. Under the Municipal Corporations Act 1954, a lease of part of a building was not considered a subdivision. Lawyers used that loophole to put multiple homes on a single piece of land without going through formal subdivision. It was cheaper, faster, and avoided council regulations entirely. Cross-leases became known as the poor man's subdivision. The 1991 Resource Management Act closed that loophole. Cross-leases are now treated as a subdivision and require consent, but the existing titles never went away. According to an Auckland Council technical report by Craig Frederickson published in October 2017, there were 215,958 cross-lease titles across New Zealand at that time. Auckland had approximately 100,148, Christchurch had 32,566, and Tauranga had 9,372. Almost 20% of all Auckland land titles are cross-leases. Nearly half of all cross-leases in the country sit in Auckland, with a heavy concentration on the North Shore, where the ownership type took off after the Harbour Bridge opened. Under a cross-lease, each owner holds an undivided share in the freehold land and leases their individual dwelling from all the other owners. These leases typically run for 999 years. The physical footprint of each dwelling is shown on a registered flats plan, and that plan is legally binding. What exists on the ground has to match what appears on the plan. Most cross-leases include a clause that prohibits structural alterations without the consent of the other lessors. That consent is not supposed to be unreasonably withheld. But for 35 years, the legal test for what counted as unreasonable made it easy for a neighbor to say no to almost anything. That test came from a 1991 high court case called Smallfield v. Brown. A couple had added French doors and a deck facing their neighbor's flat without getting consent. The neighbors sought an injunction, and Justice Fisher ruled that consent would only be unreasonably withheld where the benefit to the party seeking change was substantial and the detriment to the neighbor was only trifling. That passing comment became the law. For more than 3 decades, arbitrators and courts applied it as a threshold test. The word trifling was never written into any cross-lease document. It was judicial commentary, not contractual language, but it gave objecting neighbors near veto power. Under the Smallfield test, almost any complaint could be framed as more than trifling. Whether there was a shadow falling on a corner of a garage in winter, contractors using a shared driveway during construction, or the possibility that children might bounce balls on a new deck. Any of those could be enough to block a renovation. As young Hunter lawyer James Murphy put it, the old rule meant a neighbor could legally block consent for structural changes unless the negative impact on them was merely trifling. This gave objecting neighbors immense power. The dispute that overturned that rule began in Remuera. Brett Martelli and Susanna Keith owned Flat 1 at 80 Waiatarua Road. Sue Lynn Liow and Sai Ho Tan purchased Flat 2 next door in 2017. Both properties sat on the same cross-leased fee simple title. In 2021, the Martellis asked the Liows for consent to renovate. They wanted to extend their 114.5 square meter house by 54 square meters, bringing it to 169 square meters. The extension would move the building from more than 6 meters off the boundary to 1.4 meters. They also wanted to build an in-ground swimming pool of 27.2 square meters, 1 meter from the boundary, and add 28.8 square meters of decking to connect the house to the pool. They offered to remove their garage so they would not eat into the Liows' share of available site coverage. The Liows refused. They argued the alterations would create a tunnel-like feeling in the common area, that the deck and pool would become a focal area for socializing. and that the works would reduce their property value and limit their own future development options. In 2018, a year after buying their property, the Liows had carried out their own alterations without seeking the Martelli's consent. They demolished a smaller, uncovered deck and built a 24.6 square meter covered deck, less than 1 meter from their northern boundary. They also built a lower, uncovered deck toward the Martelli's house. None of this was consented. The Martellis did not object. The Liows also indicated they planned to add a 30 square meter bedroom extension toward the Martellis' property once they could afford it. When the Martellis came seeking consent for their own renovation, the Liows refused, despite having already built without consent themselves. The dispute went to arbitration in 2022. The arbitrator applied the Smallfield test and ruled in favor of the Liows, finding the detriment was more than trifling. But he also said that if the test had placed the competing interests more evenly, he would have had no hesitation in finding for the Martellis. He felt bound by the law as it stood, even though he believed the outcome was wrong. The Martellis appealed to the High Court. In 2024, Justice Galt held that the Smallfield test was wrong in law, saying it imposed an unjustified gloss on the quintessentially fact-specific assessment of unreasonableness. The word trifling was not part of the lease and should never have been treated as the standard. Justice Galt sent the matter back to the arbitrator with instructions to apply the correct test. The Liows appealed that decision to the Court of Appeal. On the 16th of April, 2026, the Court of Appeal, with Justices Mallon, Thomas, and Watt on the bench, dismissed the appeal. Justice Thomas delivered the judgment. The court confirmed that Smallfield v. Brown was wrong in law and replaced the trifling detriment test with a new framework. The new test is a two-stage inquiry. First, identify the actual reasons the lessor is withholding consent. Second, ask whether a reasonable lessor, having regard to the interests of all the lessees and the context of the cross-lease, could withhold consent. It is a fact-specific assessment with no rigid thresholds. The court's reasoning centered on the nature of cross-leases themselves. These leases run for 999 years. Over that time, structures will need to be rebuilt multiple times. The court said it cannot be right that the intention of the alterations covenant is to preserve structures in the same overall configuration as at the beginning of the cross-lease. The starting point, the judges ruled, must be that alterations will not only be desired but necessary. The court endorsed the analysis of Associate Professor Rod Thomas from AUT, who wrote the Cross-Lease chapter in New Zealand land law. Thomas had long argued the Smallfield test was unduly restrictive. He wrote that the weighting given to each concern should sensibly vary from case to case, and that proposed changes should be given weight, where it is common for alterations of the envisaged nature to be undertaken in the locality. The court set out 9 factors that a reasonable lessor could weigh when deciding whether to consent, including the degree of intrusion into privacy, light, and views, the impact on market value, whether the alterations affect the future development potential of the neighbor's flat, current planning laws, and changes in how people use residential properties. One of the more notable factors is the counterfactual, meaning what the owner could do with their property anyway without needing consent, such as placing a freestanding pool on their exclusive use area instead of an in-ground one. The court also established a principle of proportionality on site coverage. Each lessee has a legitimate expectation that remaining site coverage should be shared in the same proportion as when the development was first completed. Objections based on personal animosity, unrelated grievances, or a preference for the status quo are not valid grounds for refusal. As Buttle Finley's analysis summarized it, the decision removes the effective veto that the Smallfield test conferred on objecting lessees and replaces it with a flexible, fact-specific inquiry grounded in reasonableness. The court used the phrase give and take, live and let live, to describe what it expects from cross-lease neighbors. It is the framework, not a suggestion. Owners proposing alterations must avoid needless detriment, but neighbors who refuse to engage constructively with common and ordinary renovation proposals may find their concerns given less weight in any future dispute. The Liows Council argued that Smallfield had been applied by arbitrators for over 35 years, and that overturning it would create uncertainty. The court rejected that argument. Stability in the wrong law is not a reason to keep it. The practical consequences of this decision fall on a specific group of property owners. Approximately 44% of Auckland's cross-lease dwellings were built in the 1970s or earlier, according to the Auckland Council report. These are aging homes approaching the end of their physical life. Under the old test, neighbors could block the rebuilds and renovations those properties need. That restriction has now been loosened. Cross-lease defective titles are already one of the most common property problems in New Zealand. A deck added years ago, a garage conversion, or a garden shed that changed the building footprint without the flats plan being updated can render a title defective. That affects sales, bank lending, and insurance. Some banks impose stricter lending conditions or decline mortgages on cross-lease properties with title defects entirely. Converting a cross-lease to freehold costs approximately $15,000 to $25,000 plus GST per flat, requires agreement from all owners, and takes around 8 to 9 months. It requires resource consent from council, approval from LINs, and input from a planner, surveyor, engineer, and lawyer. For many owners, that is not a realistic option. The ruling does not eliminate the need for neighbor consent. You still need it. But the grounds for refusal have been narrowed to genuine material harm, whether that is loss of privacy, reduction in property value, impact on development potential, loss of light, or disproportionate site coverage. Those are valid. A vague complaint about socializing noise from a future deck is not. As of July 2026, the Remuera Dispute itself is still not resolved. The Court of Appeal sent it back to the original arbitrator to reconsider under the new test. Given that the arbitrator said he would have had no hesitation in finding for the Martellis under a balanced test, the direction of that outcome is clear, but the final determination has not yet been made. Multiple law firms published analyses of the decision between April and June 2026. Anderson Lloyd, Buttle Finley, Young Hunter, Saunders & Co., Cooney Lees Morgan, and the Law Association all characterized the ruling as a welcome correction of outdated law. The decision stands as the leading authority on cross-lease alteration consent in New Zealand. It has not been appealed to the Supreme Court. For more than 200,000 property owners, the rules between them and their neighbor are now different. The veto is gone. What remains is a requirement to be reasonable. Subscribe for more informative reports.